Welcome to Maths Bridge. We shall continue our exploration of JavaScript programming concepts. JavaScript is a part of web development is what we've been discussing. Web development consists of both backend development and front-end development, right? Client side and server side development. Primarily, we are focusing on front-end development, means like a client side development. So part of the client technologies, what we have seen is like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So currently we are exploring JavaScript programming concepts as a front end, development. Let's get into today's session. Here is an agenda. In today's session, we will see like a concept of constants and variables using VS Code to test the sample programs. We can see that like in a Node.Js environment, how you are going to test it. Also integrating as part of HTML, so you can test them in web browser too. Sample programs basically to illustrate the concept of variables, right? And then we can also refer concept of dynamically typed programming language means what, and then how do you say that JavaScript is like one of the dynamically programmed typed programming language and all. Mainly we can see like a variable declaration which we use in JavaScript, like automatically using var keyword, using let keyword, using constant keyword, and difference between difference among them and all. Okay, we shall see all these things in today's session. So let us try understand concept of variables. Let me ask you one question here. Let me put a expression 2 plus 3. If you say like evaluate this expression, what do? You compute and then you give the answer, right? So these two are the constants you are recognizing. This is like an operation kind of plus. So adding them both is what actually indicates. So by evaluating this expression, you would actually say the answer called 5. Is it? So constants and then up. These are the constant. This is an operation you are evaluating, right? You can also do these things in different way, right? So let's say I will give a problem statement like x equal to 2 and x equal to 2 and then y equal to, let's say, 3. Then I would ask like what is x plus y value. So evaluate x plus y value. What you would do, you take that x plus y and then you say what is the value that you stored in x is equal to 2. So you are replacing x with 2 and then y with 3. Then you would say this also gives like a 5. So what is the difference that you are seeing here? Straight away I'm using like a constant values. In this case, what you are doing is that you are using like another variable to store the values and then you compute the expression in terms of variables. Do you say this is how concept evaluated? So you have to understand now what these are mean to me as part of your programming techniques. Okay, this concept remains same irrespective of what computer programming language that you are learning, but just see syntactically how you are going to represent with respect to that programming language. Let me take you to my VS Code IDE environment, so you can see my screen. This is like VS Code. Right here we have a terminal. Like I said, right, when we are actually practicing your JavaScript, you should have like a Node.Js environment installed in your system as a standalone, or you can integrate your JavaScripts onto your HTML page so that you can also see those to be tested on your console, I mean in web page. Okay, so if you can see this, all you have to do is like you write a JavaScript file and then you integrate to the one of the HTML page, something like this as a line number 40, and then you will launch it using your live server. Then this is what you get it, right? So all you have to do is like just do the inspect and then you get this kind of screen, right? You don't require all these things. You need a console. These messages are, like I said, this is not nothing to do with your programming, so you can just ignore them. Then you start reloading, then you will get it, because the minute that the HTML gets loaded, it also executes the JavaScript, and hence the the output of the JavaScript is what you can see here. Line number 1 in this file, you will be probably you might have this line, right? Welcome to Mathspace. Go back and inspect your code and look at here. Yes, you're right. Line number 1, you have the console log message. This is one way of testing. The other part what you are saying is that you try test using your node environment as well, right? If you have the node environment here, you could actually do this same thing, right? So node space and then file name, if you type it, it executes the file and then it actually returns a result. Do you see? Welcome to Mathspace. These are the two ways that we can test our code. So whichever is comfortable for you, and then you just can do that. Okay, our concept here is today is like how to compute the expressions, right? Understanding the variable concept. So what I was trying to tell you here is you can use node shell to understand the concept, like a node, and then go to the node shell, and where you can actually try write in JavaScript comments like a 2 plus 3, like I said, becomes like a 5. And you can also say like x equal to 2 and y equal to 3. Then you see compute the x plus y, evaluate x plus y, it gives you 5. X plus y is equal to 5. So you see this is a concept, but this concept can also be written in file, because writing these on the shell is not what you're going to do in programming part, right? When you are doing a program, you actually create a file, source files, and you try write the code within the file. So like that's the reason I'm just always saying writing something on this file is important. File name can be anything, but I'm saying like .js file where you have to write your code. Okay, what I would do, right? I will come out from this loop, clear the screen for a minute, and then probably I will bring it down. So let me write here. So let's say what we said is like console.log message not only displaying the string, but it also computes the expression. Let's say I put like a 2 plus 3 in this case here. So what it does, you save it and then run the script here, node space the file name. Do you see here number 5? You can also see that is in the console message, probably you can get it 5. Do you see? Very nice. So now the question is like, can we also do something like this instead of actually using like a constant in the expression? Can I assign the variable x equal to 2, maybe y equal to 3, right? Y equal to 3, then you add them here, x plus y, right? And then save the changes. Let me try run it again. Do you see? But in order to you see the changes, maybe I can actually change the value 6 and 3. So 6 and 3 means you should get 9. Let me rerun this one. I have to save it, right? I have to save the changes, because do you remember when I see this, whenever you see the dot, right, in this file name, that means like the changes are made to this file but not saved it. All you have to do is like control S, you can say the changes are done. Then you rerun this program again, you see the new value is called 9. Clear? You might actually get the same thing even in your console. You see this is the 9, because it's keep loading, and whenever there is a change recognized by the server, it loads it, and hence you can see always the change. These are the two ways that I will always refer it. Got it? So what we are trying to say is that initially we use like a direct values to be computed. Now you are using like a placeholder. Let me tell you one thing. You always consider you have a container where you are actually placing your content. So these containers, what we can call it as a variables. When you have a container, you have to name the container, right, to identify the container. So that's why name given to container is known as a variable. So variables in JavaScript are the containers for storing the data values. So that is how you have to understand. So let's say for instance what these containers will do, right? What this container will do? This container in which you can store the data. I see, let's say my container name is like X, and then my value is like 10. That means like 10 is what you am going to store. Next one, I can update this container value. I can update this container value. So let's say 10 becomes 100. You can think of like, you wanted to actually redo it. So you still you can do that, right? You can read the value from the container. Let's say, so far I think you are doing this, right? Assignment operation, storing. You read the value. Let's say I have a variable called y, and then I'm copying content of x into y. So that means like what you are doing is like you are reading the value and then storing in y. Right? So you have to understand variables in a JavaScript are known as a containers. These containers are used for storing the data. You can store the data, you can update the data, you can retrieve the data. So programmatically, when you deal with like these things, it is nice to have a variable names like a x, y, a, b, or you say like name, name, number, things like that. You can imagine, right? Based out of the data, you can always think of like what type of value that you are going to store. That you can name the variable with that context. That way, code readability and then understandability is easy. Types of data variables. So variables are used to store the data, but the question is like what type of data that you are going to store in this variable. So here is the example. So data could be like a name, means like a string, and encapsulate with like a double quotes, enclose it with a double quotes, right? So the name is now storing a string value, right? So my variable is like a string variable, I would say, right? Let's say I have the variable called as, where I'm trying to store the whole number. So the data type would be a number, like integer value. Agree? If I'm actually storing boolean value like a true false, then my variable would become like a boolean data type. I can also think of like an arrays, right? Similar kind of data can be stored, right? So this is called a array variable. I can also have like an object, like a key value pair can be also stored, like a name, is, things like that. This we can call it as an object. You can also declare the variable, but if you are not assigning value to it, then that type of data, what we can call it is undefined data type. There is a significant reason for doing that, so we can talk about in the later session. So think about this way: based out of the value that you are going to store in the variable name, the variable will be storing those kind of a data type, right? Requires a declaration in generally, right? That's called data type declaration. String data type, number data type, boolean data type, array data type, object data type, thing. That's all, right? So this is called data type declaration for the variables based on the data that you are going to store. Is typically this concept remains same for any programming, because we have to declare the you have to declare the variable before you are going to use the variable. That's an idea. However, JavaScript has a one feature is called a dynamic typed programming language. What that means is you don't need to declare the variables, you just start using them, and then uh, JavaScript engine the interpreter recognizes what data that you are going to store for that variable. Accordingly, the data type will be defined for that variable during the runtime. Are you getting me? So what we can call it as a dynamically typed programming language. So dynamically typed programming language, is known as where interpreter assigns the variable type at runtime based on the variable's value at that time. So JavaScript is a dynamic typed programming language. Like I said, you don't require to explicitly declare the variable type, but interpreter assign the type of the variable at the runtime, when it sees what value that the variable is holding. Very important concept, guys. Though we are not going to define a data type for the variable, but you still need to understand a concept called variable declaration in JavaScript. We have four ways we can declare the variables, which is called as an automatic way of declaring the variables, or using keyword called var, let, and constant. Right? Automatic means like you don't say anything, straight away use variable and then value. But this is programmatically is not recommended. Mostly we use like a var, let, and constant. And var is also kind of a to support the old web browsers. We use like a var, because if you look at a legacy code, you might end up actually seeing that a variable var declaration, var as a keyword to declare for the variables in JavaScript. So every this declaration has its own meaning as per as a scope concern, which we can talk about later. First, let's look at how many ways that we can do declare the variables in JavaScript. Using var means like what you do, you have to have this variable name anywhere, right? Let's say I'm storing the string value here, right? So this bridge. So string means like what, double quoted value, right? So enclosing with like a double quotes is called a string, which I'm assigning to the variable called name1, let's say, right? So if I can use a keyword called var, that is called my variable declaration in JavaScript. This is called var name1, and then you put it. But you are not defining the type of the variable, but this is a way of actually declaring the variables in JavaScript. If you want to use a keyword called a let, so you have to use like a keyword let and say num equal to 100. Right? Do you see? This is how you can declare a variables using keyword called let. There is one more thing called a const. So you have the constant values you need. So those can be used like a const value. Const is a keyword, and maybe you can use like pi equal to 3.14, right? So these are the type of variable declaration JavaScript automatically, using var, using let, using constant. So you might be having a doubt like why do we need like these many declaration types, that you need to understand. Yes, there is a important scope defined for these type that we can discuss. So far we have seen variable declaration as a var, let, and constants. So var declaration used for like a function scoping. This is like an old syntax, like I said, between 1995 and 2015, where we have the browsers, right? So old browsers, you can see this keyword widely. Syntactically, var variable name equal to assigning the value to it is what you see as a var declaration using keyword var. And then later point of time you are using like a let and constant. These are introduced from 2015 onwards. These are called as a block scoped. Okay, we will see like how the scope can be understand while looking at the sample programs. But the typical example that what we have seen is like variable name equal to 10. You are using a keyword called let number equal to 100. So for the const one is again a block scoped. For for constants, those cannot be reassigned. So means like constant is a you see the meaning, right? Constant means like it is never going to change. That's it. So pi equal to 3.14, this value remains same for all, right? So that's why you use like a constant. When you use a constant keyword to the variable, that means like this is a fixed, it's like a read only, you cannot modify this value, that sort of meaning basically. So we have seen is that var, let, constant are the three type of variable declaration that you can see in JavaScript. Let's look at actually a var variable num equal to 1000, right? The value is assigned to this variable, but the variable is declared as a var number equal to 100. So you put a console message. So I saved this one, and then relaunch the page. What happens? I can get like 1000. Do you see? Same thing. You can also you run the script using like a node also, right? So you get 1000. So both actually gives the same meaning. What you would be doing now, let me add one more content here just to readable the point of view. So what you do, so value of number double quote value. Okay, done. So do you see, like if there is a syntax, right, it actually gives me like this kind of indicator. You can correct it syntactically, then that error will go. So that's why like this editor is actually helpful for you to write your programs, and then you can understand like what is actually an issue in syntax perspective, and then you can fix them on fly. Anyway, so let me save these changes and then run the script. Then you can see now value of number 1000. You can also see same thing in the console here, right? Because it is continuously upload or recognize the changes and then reload. So that's why you can see the output on the console message even in the web browser. Both ways you can test your part. Okay, so now the interesting part is like can I actually do redo it again this way? Say, because if you look at this one, so the file got modified because I got the dot here, and then let me save it with the control S. So it saved it, so it is accepted. So that means like using a var keyword, the variables can be redefined again and again. But that is what I think with the var. So all the old web browser supports this way of actual coding, and you can actually redefine things as many times as you need it. So I can actually say here is like a methods bridge. Now you can try print this value. So you see like what you get actually, right? So this indicates me that you are redeclaring, you are using the same variable for redeclaring for different purpose too. This is how I think the var works. Bit confusion, right? Because older versions has this kind of support, so you have to live with it. But for the latest browsers, it's var is not kind of like an encouraging type of a declaration. That is where we use like a let and constants, which we see now. Let me show you how let keyword actually helps you to understand the concept of variable declaration. Let is equal to 100, right? So this is how let uses. Let is number 100. So is of type 100 because you are storing that value 100 in this variable, and then you are using a let keyword. You can use like a console message to see the content of this variable, right? So you could actually save this one because you made a modifications. You can see, you can recognize here there is a dot in this. So you save this one and run the script, right? Node this fourth example, right? 100. This is fine. So my only question, you can also do this way. Let es and with semicolon and then sn. So you declare the variable and then you are saying the value. Still this works. Okay, but my question here is, can we use same variable again to redeclare like methods, assign the value to it? Can we do this? It is not let you to do that. You know why? Cannot redeclare block scoped variable as. Redeclaration is not allowed when you use let for declaring the variables. That is an advantage compared to the previous one. Previous one is like a keyword var. declaring a variable with using keyword where versus like a let. In the let, it is not let you redeclare the variable, same variable again and again. Okay, so that's the recognition. In order you to fix this issue, what you have to do, you have to rename this variable. Are you clear? Great. So I can actually bring this value back to make it simple, and then if you use the same variable, it gives an error. If you rename it, then it should be fine. So this is the second concept of declaring a variable, which is let. Now let's look at a concept of constant variable declaration. What you have to do is use variable. Let's say in your program, right? Sometimes like you use like variable value remains constant for entire programming lifecycle. In that case, how do you declare in the program, right? Let's say for instance like area of the circle pi r square. Pi value is how much? Pi value 3.14. Let's look at that way. So this is the variable you are assigning the value. This is automatic type, but you are wanted to keep it as a constant. When you use a const keyword, this variable becomes like a read only. That means like you are never going to you are not able to make a modifications later point of time. It is not let you do that. That's an idea. So first let use a console message and try print this variable value, and then we can see what would be our output. Okay, so do you see now this variable is holding 3.14 and hence I got it. What I would do here, can I redeclare this variable here? Can I do that? See, it recognizes and then it is not let you to redeclare first thing. So constant and let are the block scoped variables, so those are not let you to redeclare. That's the first thing, right? That's an advantage. Second part, what you have to think is that can I update? Okay, redeclaration fine. Can I update the value? Right? Can I update the value like this? So let's try out. No, you save the changes and then run the script again. Do you see you got an exception? Why? Type error, assignment to constant variable. The constant variable is already assigned a value, and then the intent is not to change the value of that variable. So if I attempt to change the value, I mean modify the value, it is throws an exception. So it means like it is not going to do that. One more important thing that you have to understand is constant variables are should be assigned during the declaration time itself. Let's say, can we do this something like this? Means like you remove here and you assign y equal to 3.14. Can we do that? No, syntactically it is not let you do that. Constant variable declaration and assignment should be done at one time. So during the declaration, the value should be assigned. Later point of time, the property of this variable get changed, and hence it is not let you to modify this content of the variable, right? Now, so these are the kind of a distinguish between using var type declaration, let declaration, and constant declarations. I hope this concept is clear. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, click on bell icon and leave the comments. Happy learning. Thank you. Stay tuned to upcoming sessions.